Listen. Ma's gonna get you. I love how Blumhouse comes up with the craziest concepts, and it's not even so much the plot aspect of it as it is just the idea of hiring an Oscar award-winning actress to play a role like this. They then get the director of that Oscar-nominated movie to helm it. They get our generation's Julia Roberts, just wait. They get another Oscar winner, Allison Janney, who I swear is going to finish up her career with an EGOT, just playing a vet who yells in this one. And then you get treated with a movie scientifically designed to make you cringe. Like, I give this a solid rent tip, mainly because I'm excited to see my friends' reactions during certain scenes, and then have them be surprised by the end of it when they realize there's actually a crazy message in here about how kids suffer and atone for their parents' mistakes. Let me explain. So we follow this girl named Maggie who's returning to her mother's hometown after the East Coast idea didn't work out so well, and now she's the new kid at school again. She gets approached right off the bat by the cool kids who invite her to hang out with them, but you should know the moment that you see they're riding a shag wagon that you gotta get new friends. If they're riding in the That 70s Show basement, but it has wheels, you gotta move on. They then take turns seeing who can entice an adult to buy them beer, and they keep getting denied, including with this vet's assistant named Sue-Ann. That is, until she notices the logo on the kid's van. See, according to the director, the original script that they were working with, the premise was pretty much what you saw in the trailer. A weird older lady starts creeping on these kids and is buying them alcohol. She invites them to her house, makes them strip, all because she was creepily attracted to them and wanted to fit in, almost as if she just wanted to relive those high school years again, which then just become a high school teacher. We all know that's why they do. Turns out with the rewrites that they actually expanded on her story. See, when Sue-Ann was young, she went to the exact same high school these kids did, except it was with their exact parents. Andy's dad had kept eyeing her back in the day and was flirting here and there, pretty much making her vulnerable enough to fall for this cruel prank that he had, where he baits her into thinking that he's going to be inside of a janitor's closet, when in reality she goes in there and gives fellatio to a random guy. It blows. Years later, after all of that humiliation, she notices the kids of her bullies, or the people who sexually harassed her, asking her for help, and she takes advantage of them, recognizing that logo. So Anne calls the cops in order to keep the kids on edge. That way, the next time that they want to drink together, she pitches the idea of coming to her house and they'd be safe and away from the cops. But I'm gonna tell you something right here. I'm sure that when I was a teen, I was also dumb. I was probably dumb enough to follow you a few blocks down, maybe dumb enough to go under a bridge, an alley at most. But the woods? Hell no. I've seen Miller's Crossing by that point. I would see the dishes right away. They get duped into going into Ma's house anyway, where her only rules are to not take the Lord's name in vain, swear, or go up the stairs. And the kids don't even question it at all, because Ma's basement in a couple of weeks becomes the go-to spot for every kid from other schools to hang out. Even the Christian girl who sleeps more than Jeff from the Wiggles is there. She's just sleeping so that she can avoid anyone asking her to drink. And Ma's the only one on the block throwing parties on a Tuesday.
I was just thinking, why wait for the weekend? It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
I'm not even gonna lie, those parties are pretty fire. If you were in a youth camp, again, you can see the movie like Blumhouse's Place Beyond the Pines, right? It's a little bit more on the B-movie side, but it pretty much still is the story of these kids who are atoning for the mistakes their parents made. It's this vicious cycle that many times continues because these kids may be creating their own victims. One of the best lines in the movie is when Andrew's dad reminds her that he was just a teen when he did his prank, and she reminds him, so was I. Even more when you look at Maggie's mom and the other students who were there, it's kind of asking you if the people who were just observing and knew what was happening but didn't do anything to stop it are just as culpable. A big thing that gets repeated in the movie, even to a cringy degree, are these kids who keep gloating about being cool and how that forces them to do these things. Haley makes fun of Maggie for not wanting to hang out with the cool kids at first, even though ain't nothing cool about begging for friends, Haley. Chaz wants Ma to buy things for her basement for him, and he thinks that by making fun of her, he'll get what he wants, saying, "Don't you want to be cool, Ma? Then you need to buy these things." Of course, she then pulls out a gun on him, makes him strip, and says the line, "Milk did that body good." But it still stands the idea of using cool as leverage, which will never go away. Even Missy Pyle's character, who I'll always remember her as Fran from Dodgeball, but her character Mercedes in this movie, who was also in Sue-Ann's class, keeps making fun of everyone, and she doesn't think that they're cool because they failed at their dreams they were following after high school, even though she forgets she's day drinking at a casino. So imagine how uncool Ma feels when these kids start ghosting her. She's so desperate for their attention attention that she pretends to have cancer, knowing good and well that Andrew's mom died from it a few years ago, and that would be a soft spot. Ma then bumps into Andrew's dad, and surprisingly, he asks to go on a date with her. Ma's getting all dolled up, ignoring the fact that this is the same guy who duped her back in the day, and he does it again. Turns out that he's been following his kid's van that he gave him with a GPS tracker this whole time, and he's like,
you got some explaining to do.
Maggie and Haley, who at this point think Ma's completely weird and have told their boyfriends to not go over, decide to break into Ma's house because they realize they're missing jewelry, and Ma has it on. They're also missing their boyfriends, and Ma has them on too. When they break into her house, the movie then turns into Don't Breathe because they start hearing noises upstairs. They bump into a girl who Maggie actually met on the first day of school, except this time she's walking and she's not in a wheelchair. It turns out that Sue Ann actually has a daughter from her failed marriage, and she's got her locked up upstairs. Sue Ann then claims to her daughter that she's sick and she can't go out. But she could also be treating Jeannie like Gypsy, and it could all be an act. By the third act, Ma goes off the top. Like, this is the reason people came to see this movie. Ma feels no one is on her side, so she runs over Mercedes, thinking she's doing the world a favor by getting rid of her. She kills the vet because screw the animals they had on the schedule, shoots a snoopy police officer who's actually played by the director, and then drugs Andrew's dad, who wakes up tied to her bed misery style, and this lady almost cuts off Gaston's bratwurst. We then get the most Blumhouse part of the movie, and that's the one that takes place in the basement, because Ma invites all these kids to her basement for one last hurrah. Conveniently is able to get rid of all the extras, so it's just the main cast, and she's able to drug them. She then proceeds to stitch up Haley's mouth so she can finally shut up, irons Chaz's six-pack since he's a douchebag, and then paints Darrell's face white since according to her, there could only be one black person in the group. At this point, Andy regains consciousness and tries to dupe Ma by kissing her, knowing that Ma has a thing for him. This kid does not realize that this is the exact move his dad did years ago, and that's what started this whole thing. Sue Ann realizes this and stabs the boy, and then sets all of these drugged up children in order to take a picture with them, house that Jack built style. This is Ma. The house then gets set on fire because it's a Blumhouse movie with 15 minutes left, and while the kids and Jeannie are able to escape at the last minute, Sue Ann embraces her fate, walks up this fiery building, and lays down next to Andrew's dad, finally getting that alone time she wanted with him in bed. And it's hot. It's literally flaming. Thank you guys for checking out this video. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What did you think of Ma? Did it hold up to the expectations that you had for it? I always find Blumhouse interesting because for every Ma that they release, they have another movie coming out this year called Adopt a Highway that's the complete opposite. Like, a lot of people are really quick to blame Blumhouse for like making these crappy movies. I don't think that's the case. Usually we complain about movies because the studios interfere. I feel like when the movies are bad, it's because Blumhouse isn't interfering at all. He's allowing them to make whatever crazy idea that the filmmaker wants to make. So many times it doesn't end up being, the best thing possible. But as much as we make fun of Blumhouse for giving, $2 million or $5 million budgets, better to have a $5 million budget and make the movie you want that'll get distributed and seen, as opposed to getting like an $80 million budget, and then what people are watching isn't even the movie that you tried making. It's too much meddling. So I'm curious to see what people think about this movie, and more so the bigger ones that come out, because again, Blumhouse will come out with the smaller movie, and then they'll have the Whiplashes and the Get Outs. Crazy company. But this one was somewhere in the middle. I think they could have done more with it. I still, keep it as a rent and not a junior price, but there were some good lines in there. Some that I had quoted. One that I really liked at the end came from Maggie's character, who almost really avenges her mom, or more so atones for her mom's stuff by saying that she's not weak and she's not like her mother. So, there's some gems that go in there here and there. Other than that, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and Ma will bring you a six-pack.